This is the Beatbox by Rhythmo. It is a MIDI controller with a cardboard body that you assemble yourself. And that comes with some somewhat surprising benefits and pain points, all of which I'm going to get into over the course of this video, because I'm taking you through the full process, assembly to testing. So without any further introduction, let's jump into it. All right, so here is the box that it comes in. Beatbox assembly required. I'm counting on it. Ages 10 plus. Hopefully that means that even someone who is pretty inexperienced working with proper electronics like me can figure this out. So let's see what we got. We got wires, quite a few of them. It will be up to me to figure out what these do. I mean, it won't be up to me. I'm assuming I will be guided through it, but we'll get there. Standard USB Type B to USB A. Oh! Uh-oh, come back. So these are little pluggy boys, for lack of a better term. A adorable little screwdriver. It's so small. More pluggy things. More wires. I'm guessing each of these are for the pads, actually, now that I look at it. Yeah. Okay, that's sticking a little bit. I'm sure that's just because of the protective film. Let's figure that out. Oh yeah, that's sticking. We'll see how reliable that is in actual use in a bit. And finally, oh, there's already some stuff in here. Oh, this is where the handle's coming from. So a little carrying case handle. It's adorable. Oh wow, all sorts of goodies in here. Brain module. That is this right here. And your little circuit boards. And a bunch of stuff that I'm like slowly learning about, but still don't fully understand like all of the ins and outs. Lithium ion battery. Nice. So theoretically that would be like fully replaceable then. You could just get another one, pop it in, presumably, which would be cool. I don't talk much about repairability because I'm not an expert, but having stuff be repairable is always good. Speakers. So some proper speaker cones. They're not huge, but they're dense. We will absolutely test how those sound. So I'm assuming that this just comes out, and I will figure that out in a second. Important. Download the app and follow the tutorial to build your beatbox. We'll do that in a second. So this looks like it's showing the kind of configuration that you're going to be using, as well as places to pop these out. I'll do that when it tells me to. All right, so we've got a little character. Make sure your workspace is clean. Arrange it neatly and in sight. Pop the cardboard circles out. You bet. So yeah, this is the case, by the way. It feels fairly solid as far as like a box goes. It's a cardboard box though. Like it feels like the cardboard box that a MIDI controller would come in. Okie dokes. Pop the cardboard circles out. Do I need anything special to do that? I'm guessing the answer is no. So this is where we're going to be feeding our little buttons through. Oh, I just gave myself a paper cut. Okay, so let's try a different strat. Don't do what I just did, kids. Don't be a dumbass. So look at these are labeled with CCs. And there's a shift button, presumably. This looks like they're really going for it in terms of functionality, which of course we will test all of that once I've built it. Stress tested a bit. This is a small company that makes it, as far as I know. I discovered this from Tatro because he was using one on a live stream. And once I saw it, I pretty much immediately hopped on the site to order it because I've been looking for something a little more DIY-y, and this seems like a really good beginner-friendly place to start. Plus, come on, it just makes for a good video title that I myself would click on. And hopefully, well, if you're watching this, you did too. All right, so we've popped the cardboard circles out. Time to give your beatbox some footing. Flip the box all the way over. Grab the little square with the 4 feet on it, like some stickers, peel off each foot and stick each one on the 4 corners. All right, so each one of these is a tiny little foot. I hope you can see that. Hold them down for a few seconds to make sure they're really on there before moving to the next corner. Too late. Number 2, amplifier board. Okay, that's this dude. I'd recommend touching something metal before popping this open, just so static electricity doesn't pull any shenanigans on your nifty little electronic components. Look at that. It's got a 5-way USB hub, a USB sound card, Class D amplifier, and a battery charging module. You're also going to need grab bag A. So these, very helpfully, are labeled. So here's A. There's another one. This is trash. This can go. That's a hair. That can go too. This too is trash. Spot the 4 holes on the board and get the little nuts and standoffs. So that's all this stuff right here. Tiny little nuts. So screw the standoff in and avoid aggressively poking myself in the finger, preferably. Victory. That ain't going nowhere. Repeat the process 3 times. We are going to skip that, and I'll get back to you when it is done. All right, I'm on the last one. This has gotten significantly easier. 2 of them were a huge pain. 2 of them were basically effortless, so that step is now done, and my paper cut is now bleeding. Okay, so now I should be able to match the outline of this with the outline of this and pop the little standoffs into the little holes in the cardboard. It's kind of a tight fit, so I'm wondering how we're going to fasten this, because right now I'm worried that I'm going to break it if I push down on it. So I'm going to stop pushing down on it because that's super sketchy. And instead, I'm just going to do the rest of the instructions and hope that it sorts itself out. So now we've got the little amplifier knob, and it looks like this is going to attach to this knob here. Screw that on and make sure to twist it tightly to the left so that the box is turned off. All right, you got it, buddy. So this should line right up with this and pop right on, presumably. There we go. Oh, okay. Here's how we're going to fasten it then. Do a little flipperoonie. Don't get screwed. The screws will go in easier if you hold the board against the box while you screw them in. Yeah, no shit. Okay, let's do that. Welcome back to Gabe Struggles for like an hour. It's just funny how I paid extra for what's like, I basically guaranteed myself an annoying and fiddly experience. Although I gotta say, they're doing a good job hand-holding me through it. It's like getting HelloFresh or something. You're not just paying for the end result, you're paying for getting handheld through an experience that you're otherwise maybe a little unfamiliar with. And then you get something that is hopefully enjoyable afterwards. All right, so now that I've started all 4 screws and made sure they've made contact with the standoffs, and now I can actually tighten them all. Oh, and that's another reason that the little feet are here, because they're like deeper than these screws are, so you're not gonna like scratch your table up if this slides around at all. Well, this one isn't all the way in. Glad I checked. Ta-da! Next up, speakers. Also note, nice little quality of life thing, I've got some leftover parts from that first step. So if I lost one of the nuts or anything like that, I would be able to have a replacement. Bag B, a lot of very similar components. Rubber washers, some screws, and some nuts. You're starting to see a trend here. Grab 2 of the prep screws and stick them from the outside in through the top 2 holes above the big speaker hole. Match up the screw rods you put in with the holes on the face of the speaker and slide it in. Okay, so here's a speaker. I believe these are identical. The top of this guy goes in here, and then we take the metal nuts and then start to screw that on there, but not fully tightened. How the hell am I supposed to get to those ones on the bottom? Am I getting got right now? Or did I just do it wrong? I can't believe people watch this channel. Oh, we got it. Okay, so now I can actually properly tighten them. So now I'm just holding on to the nut to secure it. That way this actually screws in and then just uses the wall of this to clamp down on it. So in a way, this is kind of like the Framework laptop or Fairphone or something like that. Like if a component of this breaks, theoretically, you could probably dive in and just replace it. You don't have to be an expert. Say if one of the speakers gives out, you could just hop in, replace the speaker. And you know what? That's pretty cool. Even if the result might be a little jankier than something you're going to buy that is fully assembled, I like the idea a lot, and I'd love to see them do something with a different chassis that isn't cardboard. As wonderful clickbait material as it is, ooh, carbon fiber might be cool. Maybe some rubber pads, more MPC style rather than the clicky boys, because those are more likely to stick. Although, to be fair, I have also wanted a MIDI controller with like video gamey buttons for a while, so that's a plus for me on this one. But for a regular use MIDI controller, I want something for maximum finger drumming impact. Quick interruption from Gabe in the future. I should mention that while we were in the middle of editing this video, Rhythmo announced that they had either finished or were in the process of crowdfunding a solid plastic chassis for the device. So apparently they decided to go through with it after a while of saying that they had no plans to. So I'm glad to see that. I'm hoping they sell it on their own if they aren't already. Wanted to get that out of the way. Back to the video. Speakers in. Spare components. Excellent. So now that they exist as a component in here, we can untape this dude and attach them to the amplifier board. Excellent. That just kind of snaps on. I was afraid of forcing it, but you totally just can. Up next, the battery. So yeah, having a replaceable battery is going to be nice because that is one of the components of consumer electronics that is most likely to just give out first. So I am imagining that I'd be able to replace the battery myself. I'm not sure if they have replacement parts, but I'm sure I can find a way. It's fairly clear where this needs to go. Get to stick. And now all I have to do is connect this to its connecty boy. Okay, so this is connected in here. This one so far looks like it's just gonna kind of dangle. So I should be able to just turn this on now. So this is the on and the volume. We got a little light. Up next, charging port. Bag D. Take the charging cable and find the hole for it on the back of the box. From the inside box, mount the charging cable in its place. So this goes into the side of the box. There's just a little hole. You just kind of pop it in there. So there's just a little bit of metal sticking out here. So that's where the washer goes. All right, so I've connected the charger. Up next is the joystick. Bag C. That's the worst way I possibly could have done this. So here is the joystick board. It is now articulated. Oh, it's clicky too. More standoffs. Oh boy, my favorite. No. I'm going to have a conniption right here on camera.
Almost there, Hobbitus. We're almost there.
Okay. Pop them in the holes in the face of the box for the screws around where the joystick will go. Presumably, this will just stick out, just be like a little extra little button thing. So this is how you're gonna interact with your MPE stuff. In practical use, I don't really find myself using it. It's one of those things that's cool in concept, but just a little bit too fiddly, and I'd rather just use traditional automation. But if I go out of my way to use it, like on the Rolly stuff or the Artifon stuff, it can be really fun. So now it just kind of barely sticks up. Up next, the knob board and bag E. It is important to make sure the ports on the board are facing the inside of the bottom of the box when you align the board with the hole. So I think that means this way. Coming from outside the box, ooh, slide one washer onto each of the knobs. Washer, screw the nut on. So yeah, these are endless encoders. Some people have strong feelings about them. I do not. I think they're perfectly adequate in every way, unless they break. But these, if they do break, you could totally just replace. I'm not sure if anyone will. You know, it remains to be seen how practical this is in normal use, but you know, I mess with the general concept. I've messed with the vision. So yeah, then, whoops, encoder knobs. Clicky. Starting to look like a piece of audio equipment. And there's not a lot of resistance to these. They feel fairly cheap and fiddly, but you know, this does have a cardboard body, so I'm not going to hold it against it. Give yourself a nice pat on the back. Sure. Brain module. So that's this right here. Get in there. Look at this guy. So it's going to have some LEDs, some joystick stuff. All right. So then we've got this absolute unit of an absolute unit of absolute units. Find the 4 and 5 pin cables. Oh, I like that they've separated these out with another rubber band. So these have 5 cables in between each part, and there are 2 4-pin cables with 4 cables in between. Keep in mind that we're going to be working from left to right across the joystick board. So that's going to be speakers facing me. First, take one of the 5-pin cables and line up the small teeth on the cable connector to the small T-size opening on the port inside the joystick board. Go ahead and connect it. Connect the other end to the leftmost knob port. I don't think that's right. Okay, so it turns out I had this upside down. We're not using the brain board yet. Still, we're using the knob board. So this should just slot right in. After that, connect the rest of your 5-pin cables from left to right in order on the knob board. Are we connecting to anything in particular? Not yet, I don't think. Is this 5? Yeah. I can count. I went to school. I have a flippin' bachelor's degree, and some of this still kind of stumps me. And now, the connection board, the brain. Okay, so the joystick does not go in here. I repeat, the joystick does not go in here. It goes in the thing labeled joystick. But I did get this the correct side up. So I've got that going for me. So we should be able to connect the dots between labels like we did with the joystick. So LED, LED, we're gonna not worry about the 2-1 yet, it said. So that's fine. So I guess these are gonna both talk to each other to control parameters and to control how we control parameters. So now we're moving on to, I think essentially grinding our way through working with these for the arcade buttons. And of course, these as well. Okay, this one does not stick in the way that the other did. That's good. Oh boy, I'm gonna regret this, aren't I? Ah! Ow. Grab a cable. Ta-da! And a plastic cover. By holding on the metal, not the wire, insert the end of the terminal slowly into the thicker opening of the plastic cover. Slow and steady really does win the race in this step. That went in really easy, so I don't know what they're on about. Probably means I've done it wrong. Oh, okay, so if these touch, there will be misfires. So you can't let these have contact, but God, I do not want to do this. So yeah, this is the right size for this. So it appears that you are going to have to jimmy this around. How am I supposed to do that? Bold of you to assume that I, someone who is into finger drumming, have the fine motor skills for that. All right, I came to a shocking realization. I had put it on the wrong way. So fiddly. So it's, the long side goes this way. And so this, the end of this will stick out a little bit, is I believe the idea. Okay, I think I got it. So then this should connect here and just kind of fit and isolate the cables from one another, which is what we want. And I have to do this 24 more times. At this point, I stopped recording to go do something else and then eventually came back and started recording again. And when I started recording again, all of my mic audio started recording into my DAW corrupt. I'm not sure why, and I didn't notice it until I was done filming this entire video. So we're going to be using the internal mic camera audio instead. So we tried to do some processing to make it a bit more listenable, but I do apologize in advance for the drop in sound quality that you're about to hear. I wanted to make sure I preserved the in the moment reaction to doing this entire process. Anyway, back to the video. Ugh. Well, that sucked. This is a couple days later. I spent way too long of an evening putting on all the stupid little cable ends, and it was really annoying, and there's no way around it. So I wanted to do this right, so I muscled through, but it sucked, and it made me mad. But now that we have done that, we get to do more repetitive stuff. Hey, I signed myself up for this, I know. So I'm having trouble from the image being able to tell how this is laid out. So I've got this kind of oriented the exact same way it is in the image. But like this can't go on straight here, that's physically impossible. But I don't think that both will fit if I put it on like this. But here it clicked. So that seemed to work. So do you just have to get it in real close? Because that seems like a bad idea too. That seems wrong to me. See, that's all a little askew. There's no physical way that it can look the way that it looks. That's impossible. Impossible even. Me fail English? That's impossible. I think this is the way to do it. Nothing else makes any sense. See, this one is properly offset. Something's weird here, dude. So here's what's different between these two. These are smooth, and these have that little ridge on here. This one is also smooth. And yet, there are a bunch of them and a ton more cables, so I'm not sure if there's a difference in how they connect, or maybe they just connect either way and we don't care. This actually feels pretty nice. I think this could actually take some proper finger drumming. And it's not sticking at all. It's a good sign. And this has the skewed little doots. It clicked. I have renewed hope. I don't know what's up with this red one though, it seems stuck. There we go. There's no click, dude. It also sticks it. Oh, it like popped this thing straight through it. Oh, no, I had to push it all the way through. Okay, lesson learned. So from here on out, I think we should be in decent shape. I think we're actually getting somewhere, and I think this actually should feel pretty good to play. Cool, we did it. Get out of my way, jellyfish. The big boy's back. So I'm supposing that will feed this cable through here. I'm guessing this is right side up. Ooh, I wanna be careful here. I don't wanna break this fragile little body. Whoa. It's a satisfying click. And we're gonna wanna be connecting these up as we go, I'm assuming. The button connection board, that's this guy. It ought to match what is going on with these. So this dude, I think goes in here. I think this is right side up. So this is the, This actually feels surprisingly solid. Like when it's all snapping together, it doesn't feel too brittle. Or like it's gonna just kind of fall apart in my hands. Like once I'm done with this, I'll be able to just throw this on a shelf and not really worry about it. But until then, I will worry about it copious amounts. And we are back with good audio and my beatbox connected up to my computer. So that's working just fine. I've got an ASIO driver running as per usual with this thing. And a quick note on getting MIDI devices to work in Reaper. If you go to Preferences and then MIDI devices, you can right click to enable this. Now, here's something I haven't been able to get to work. The speakers. We spent all this effort putting the speakers in, but when I went in here to select my outputs and went into my audio device to select outputs, it basically ended up not only not coming out of these speakers, but getting my audio to get so confused that I had to reboot my computer just to get sound to come out of my headphone jack on my computer at all. Not a great experience. That could totally be user error on my part, but I wanted to at least mention it. I did not have a smooth experience getting these speakers to work, and I still have not gotten them to work. But the experience of using this as a MIDI controller is actually quite nice, because I spent some time off camera getting that to work. So it's responsive enough. I've got Analog Lab loaded up. Let's get something with a little more attack to it. And see, it's pretty responsive. So before I play any more notes or start messing around with parameters, here's something that's really important to know. There are two modes that the beatbox runs in. By default, it runs in the mode that is built to interface with the mobile app. And what that does is it kind of restricts use of these CC buttons, and it makes these knobs binary. So you turn it one way to get one value and turn it the other way to get another value, and that's all you get. And when I first plugged this in and started getting that response, I was like, oh no, is this just like a giant nerfed device and it's not going to actually work that well? No. All you have to do to change it to its computer mode is hit Shift and press down on the joystick. Now, these knobs will actually do things. So you can see it responding quite cleanly to the input on the computer. And to change octaves, you hit Shift and then one of the CC buttons. The order is a bit weird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That doesn't feel super intuitive to me, but... Ooh, too high. It works. Awesome. That's all working correctly. And I should also note that I went in ahead of time and mapped these macros to these 4 macros. And that was in my last session when I was just testing stuff out off camera, and it remembered them. Excellent. And the reason that it remembers it is because I actually saved a MIDI configuration preset. To get that working in the first place, you can go to either MIDI or macro and select the macro that you want, hit learn, and then twiddle the knob, and it'll tell it, hey, this knob should be linked to this macro. Do it for all 4 of them, maybe even map something to your joystick as well. In this case, I've got it mapped to my distortion. It's not really meant to be a knob, it's meant to be an XY thing, so it's not great, but you get the idea, hopefully. And then if you go into MIDI, you can actually export that and all that kind of stuff. Also, these will trigger notes if you're not pressing Shift. So that works. That works quite well, actually. It's pretty responsive. You'd probably be pretty well served by getting some sort of scaler plugin. Ableton should have one built in, and Scaler by Plugin Boutique is pretty good. They've done a sponsored video with me before, full disclosure, but I would use something like that in regular use to quantize this grid into a scale that I can work with a little more easily. But that is it for synths. What about drums? So I gotta make sure I get this set to the correct octave. This is just a free drum sample plugin that just holds drum samples, and I'm just using the defaults just to test this. So you have to be kind of careful. You noticed a couple double triggers. This feels like just a little worse than the Digitact. So it's not as good as rubber pads. But it is fun. And I have always wanted kind of a MIDI fighter style device with the video game buttons. They're loud. But the grid format's good. They're somewhat responsive. And I should be able to use MIDI Learn to get these knobs going as well. So you get a more hands-on experience. And for me, I've got my mouse over here. And so as long as I don't need to use many keyboard shortcuts on my computer because my laptop's over here, that should be a fairly ergonomic experience. With this front and center, you could probably also get this to launch clips in a more clip launchy program. Overall, other than the speakers, I'm impressed. I like the way that this works. I like the macro knobs and the joystick, and the pads feel pretty good. I'm very proud of myself for having put this together. Like, yes, I just followed a set of instructions, but still, it's cool. It's undeniably pretty neat. Overall, if you want a fun DIY project and something that is genuinely usable, you could do worse. This is a pretty good thing to go to. And once again, I love the repairability aspect of the idea that, hey, you could just pop out the battery, or if a pad starts giving you trouble, you could pop that out and pop in a new one. That's really nice to have, and I'm sure if you're more tech savvy than me in terms of just working hands-on with electronics, you could mod this thing to do some pretty cool stuff as well. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see some more videos about weird music production tech that kind of pushes the boundaries, you can click or tap up over here. I've got some more stuff for you to check out. And I'll be back with a new video in a little bit. Thank you so much for watching.